FCC Commissioner Brendan CARR. Commissioner, always so good to see you. Welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Good to be back with you. Thanks.
Of course. So let me start off. I wanted to get your opinion on the YouTube thing. And I get, there's a huge conversation on the right where it's private companies can do what private companies will, but it's changed dramatically since you had the White House spokesperson state that the administration is interested in marking certain things that they consider disinformation or misinformation, which varies wildly depending upon whom you ask, which I think is a huge problem. But with YouTube doing this, there's a lot of questions that are coming up with this, not just with people's ability to speak freely, because I think we get into the corporate censorship area, but also when there's election, et cetera. There's a lot of worries here. And I just wanted to get sort of how you weigh in on that particular issue that YouTube announced this week.
Well, I'll start somewhere I didn't expect to start, which is praise for the New York Times, not the New York Times of today, unfortunately. The New York Times of 50 years ago, there was an editor, John Oates, and he said back then that diversity of opinion is the lifeblood of democracy. The moment we insist that everybody think the way we do, our democratic way of life is in trouble. And he was right. And underlying what he said is a culture in this country that will defend the right of other people to speak, even if we disagree with their content. Now, we've moved away from that in this country. And a lot of people have said it's none of the government's business. Who is the government to tell a big corporation what speech to carry and what not? And I would say this: we've never had private institutions with this much control, with this level of a lack of accountability. And to your point, when the White House comes out and says, actually, we're coordinating behind the scenes to help censor information, that crosses a line that makes it look like state action. And yeah, it is the government's business what type of censorship is going on at the direction of White House officials.
Yeah, it's troubling too, because everyone always says, well, just create your own platform if you dislike this. Well, we see what happens when you do that. It can be canceled through it's like a web of services, Amazon Web Services, for instance, but a web of other services, and they can all kind of work together and deplatform like they did with Parler. It's troubling because it does seem like the public square is under attack, and at the same time, you have individuals like myself and many others that want to approach rectifying this issue with as minimal government intervention as possible. But it seems like now, because you have these corporations acting as essential agents of the state, I'm not really sure how much that government action can be limited. And it's sort of like a catch-22 here. So what is the solution?
Well, again, I think big tech has said that there's no role for the government here, that the First Amendment doesn't allow it to play any role with respect to their content moderation decisions. And I don't think that's right. I think there's a balance we can strike here. I think we can go too far. I think if we said, look, you have to carry every single piece of content, all speech, basically turn them into common carriers, that's not the position I'm taking. But we do have anti-discrimination rules on the books that prohibit people, for say in restaurants, from kicking people out based on their political affiliations. I think we can import some of those basic anti-discrimination rules to big tech without saying you got to carry child porn and you got to carry all kinds of information we don't want to carry. But poor political speech could be out there as something that we protect. Because look, we're the poorer from it. Right now, we can't discuss the potential origins of COVID-19, one of the most significant pandemics in the history of man, without getting censored. You can't search for Tank Man and the anniversary of the Tiananmen Square massacre on Microsoft. There's all kinds of evidence. Obviously, the Hunter Biden story got spiked on social media. Our debate of these important public issues is poorer because of the censorship. So I do think there's a role for the government to come in with some basic guardrails that can help promote more.
Went because I was using this as part of radio show prep and was looking for this write-up. It was a great write-up on Dr. Anthony Fauci and what he had said previously on masks and sort of his progression on the mask position. Well, the link had changed in my saved notes. And when you go and search for it on Google and put it in, the link was broken, so I had to put it in a different way. Google did not want to recognize it. So buried like on page 7 after all of this other very, very happy pro-Biden mandate stuff was that link. But you put it in on any other search engine, and interestingly enough, it was coming right up. There was no problem. So when it gets to the point of these entities that are actually shaping public opinion, that's a little bit different. But I realize that we're in a brave new world. We've never had to deal with with this kind of stuff. And this is where technology has kind of fast tracked us to have that healthy, that healthy ratio between, smaller government, being able to engage in free speech while at the same time not allowing corporate interests to dictate where that goes. You have a hard job. I don't envy you.
Well, you're right. And it's very Orwellian. And the fact is this: truth does not drop down from the heavens like some sort of manna. Truth is decided by people that are either merely fallible or biased. And like you said, wear masks, don't wear masks. Wear one mask, wear three masks. This goes back and forth. That's why we should always err on the side of getting more information out there. And I think that is going to serve all of us a lot better than, controlling and censoring information. I mean, look, what is blasphemous today becomes orthodox tomorrow. That's the process of discovery. And so that's why we need a robust, open debate. And there's a role for the government here, given how much control big tech has over these channels of communication.
It's weird to watch all of this and then also simultaneously what's happening, for instance, with Hong Kong and with communist China. I know you had been talking about this. You were tweeting about it as well. I have to say, I was shocked that LinkedIn was still even allowed in China. I didn't even know that, because you can post on LinkedIn. I didn't know that they even allowed it, because they banned Facebook and Twitter and everything else. They have their own versions. But the CCP leaders can get on, obviously, as you know. But in LinkedIn, and you had tweeted about this as well, they're now censoring, working as a censor on behalf of the Chinese Communist Party. I was reading one journalist who said, I woke up this morning to discover that LinkedIn had blocked my profile in China. I used to have to wait for Chinese government censors or censors employed by the Chinese companies in China to do this kind of thing. Now a U.S. company is paying its own employees to censor Americans. What is your reaction to this?
Yeah, this is disturbing. This is just the latest trend. But on LinkedIn, you have something in your profile that the censors in communist China don't like, and LinkedIn will go in for you and edit out that information for the communist regime. And the hypocrisy here is what's stunning. We have these companies based in Silicon Valley that have no problem lecturing the rest of this country what our values should be. But the second it comes to turning a buck in another country, all those values go out the window, and they are happy to censor.